A man who wears the 10 pounds of gold.
The nature boy, Ric Flair.
You know, I always like to take this opportunity to talk about myself. Woo! Woo!
The 16-time heavyweight champion has arrived.
I've got the style and profile like never before.
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again.
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine like, jet flying, son of a gun. Woo!
This is Wooooo Nation with Ric Flair.
I'm the man. Ric Flair.
All right, you're listening to Wooooo Nation right here with Ric Flair. I'm Conrad Thompson, the kind of sidekick here on the show, and we've got a hell of a guest this week. But first, we need to go ahead and send our condolences to the entire Rhodes family. And we've talked about it a lot here on the show in the previous weeks. What a big mentor Dusty was to Rick, and you even kicked around the idea of being Ramblin' Ricky Rhodes at one point, and what a big deal he was in your career and an influence on your life. And I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking with you about the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Well, it's, I'm overwhelmed right now, obviously. And thank God that I got to see him 2 days before he passed and spend some time. And we were just our old selves. He was mad that I was getting to go see LeBron James. Right. And I was, we just antagonize each other. We have our whole lives. But I had noticed a drastic weight loss, and I was with Michelle and at WrestleMania, and I was talking to her, and they just, she wouldn't admit that Dusty was sick, but I knew that he was, and of course I had found out since that he had been sick for a while. But just close to the family forever. I mean, when in 1972, Dusty took me to Texas. Vern sent me to Japan with those guys, and I was at Dustin and Kristen, his two oldest kids, at their house in Austin, and Dusty had property in bulls, and we rode. I knew nothing about stuff like this. I'm a Minnesota kid, but we rode the bulls, and just stuff I hadn't learned. And then they took me in the airport in Dallas on our way to Japan and shaved my head bald, and I got over there, and they had a referee cut me when that guy almost killed me, and I was going, I got kind of cocky, and I said, this is enough, and they just left me in the building, got in the bus and left me with all the Japanese kids.
Oh, wow.
To ride back to the hotel, yeah. So then they made me carry their bags all for 3 weeks, and Dusty would sit across the aisle from me and sing, "Dear John, I hate to write you," like my wife writing me a letter saying goodbye,
Sure.
Oh, I could go on forever, but I just was so mesmerized by him. It drove Vern Gagne crazy that he kept, this is not what you want to do. I said, well, yeah, it is. And when we got through...
Well, Dusty said in his book that one of the reasons that you looked up to him was probably not so much the wrestling as it was the beer drinking and hill raising and fun, and you were just enamored with the lifestyle maybe that he had at the time when he was with Murdoch, I mean.
Oh, yeah, but if you heard him talk, the first time he talked at TV, I went, God, this guy is tremendous. He was totally different than Nick Bockwinkel or Harley or Larry Hennig or Dick Murdoch. He was on top of it, and it just got better. But yeah, we had so much fun. My God, I just got married, and I was driving 300 miles with those guys to town just to hang out with them when I wasn't even booked.
Right.
No wonder Leslie left me about 5 times. I couldn't get enough of the guy. And then I went and bought him, which he alluded to the other day. We went to a country western bar. I'd never been to a country western bar my whole life, right? And I went to a place called not Fink's, but anyway, a real expensive jewelry store in Minneapolis. I bought this gold money clip with a $20 gold piece on it that I did not have the money to pay for, right? And I called him in the bathroom. I said, "Why don't you know him? This is how much I think you've been." And he still has it to this day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he goes, "You don't have to do that." I said, "Yeah, I do. I just wanted to thank you for taking care of me and, helping me, become who I'm hopefully going to try and be, you know. And then the Ramblin' Ricky Rhodes came later, and then, but you know, if he went his way, I went my way, and sure enough, back together, and we made a lot of money, had a lot of fun, made a lot of money, and he's got 4 beautiful kids, and I see Teal and Cody and Dustin all the time. I haven't seen Kristen in a year. I'll see her. Actually, I'll see her today.
Right.
Because we're airing today is Dusty's funeral. So I will see Kristen, and I'm close to the entire family. And he was very close to his kids, and he couldn't have been married to a nicer person than Michelle. I called her the other day, and I said, she was upset. I said, well, you need to know something that's really important that a lot of wives I don't think understand and don't hear enough, because it doesn't, we seem to take you guys for granted. I said, Michelle, Dusty loves you like nobody else. Dusty knew where to draw the line.
Right.
You know, and I mean, he would drink beer and have fun and do all that, but he loved Michelle, and that was it. And it was a special relationship, and they've been together 37 years. And 4 beautiful kids, and 2 of them very successful in a business that he loved, as you know. Kristen was a Dallas Cowgirl cheerleader, which he loved that. I thought that was so cool.
That is
Not
cool.
Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. Now she's married with kids and very happy, and Teal lives here in Atlanta, and she's got kids, and so everything's cool.
And most recently, he was helping your daughter Ashley.
Oh
Charlotte,
my God! Yeah, my Ashley is having as hard a time with it as I am. I mean, he just took her under his wing the day that she got to Tampa, and then when they moved over to Orlando, he's been with her, mentored her, talked to her, given her just a ton of support and information, and helped her with so many different things in life, and just awesome. So it's going to be a long day today, but I know that. But I'm really, really happy that he is getting his due, and that he's getting the recognition worldwide that he deserves, because he was that big. And you told me that last night. I didn't see it, the pay-per-view, Vince, and the company spent a lot of time, you know, that's, you know, what he deserves, and they recognize that, you know, like more than anybody else. They you know, they know who Dusty was, and Vince will always have a place. And you know, the funny thing is that you can almost say now, and for $9.99, and I'm being facetious, of course, but you can see Dusty Rhodes for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff on
And
that
there's a lot of
network.
stuff in it, but I mean, and it's not going to go away anytime soon, and it shouldn't.
Well,
I
and
mean,
the impact.
you don't have to go to YouTube. You can find it right there, because they will have Dusty Rhodes on that network forever, and that's who he is. That's what he deserves.
Well, that was what we needed to do to start this week's Wooooo Nation, and we're going to go to commercial, and when we come back, we're going to have a hell of a guest from the old Crockett days, and we'll go to commercial for now.
All right, man.
The Nature Boy is going to take a quick trip on Space Mountain. You better be here when I get back. This is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, for Woo! Score Big. Conrad, you like to score big, don't you?
Oh, yeah. At Score Big, you save on every ticket every day. That's where you should go first to check on tickets. Even tickets and seats you don't think you could afford.
When you name a ticket price, you save up to 60% off box office price. On average, customers save 40% off the box office price.
Here's how it works. You just find a game or show you want to go to, and then pick your seating area. Then name a ticket price and get an instant answer. Score Big does not charge fees.
Did you know that up to 40% of tickets to events go unsold? Even events that most people think are sold out often have thousands of tickets.
On average, a customer who names a ticket price on Score Big saves about $80 per purchase. That's over 40% off of the box office price.
So next time you want tickets, think big, save big, score big at scorebig.com. Woo!
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again. This is Wooooo Nation with Ric Flair.
Hey, this is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, here with the Wooooo Nation and with my good friend and co-host, Conrad Thompson. Today, our guest, one of the legends in the wrestling industry, on the promotional side of things, part of Jim Crockett Promotions, the middle brother, the nicest brother, the most honest brother. And a man who's married with two beautiful kids, still rocking and rolling, crashing a plane with me. He's beaten cancer. He donates his time wherever he can over the United States. Just a great guy, my good friend, David Crockett. David, how are you?
Oh, great. Well, after that,
Well, it's the truth. Last time I talked to you out in Iowa, putting sandbags up for the flood. I said,
That's
have
right.
fun.
And I'm still working on the Texas floods from here, mapping and doing river flows and mapping the weather for them.
Wow.
Well, I know what I just said. I'm serious. The guy, I don't even think Conrad know that about you. He's taken this thing of generosity and helping everybody out to the next level. You should probably run for the president of the United States. You'd probably win hands down because you're honest.
Well, after Turner, I was looking for an adrenaline rush. And when Katrina came along, I said, all right, this is it. This is the next best thing to television. So I went down to Louisiana, and I've been fighting disasters ever since. And
after Turner, we all needed a rush. I just drank 500 gallons of martinis with Gene Okerlund. You avoided Gene and I as much as possible. I got you a couple times to come in, but you were always better.
Now, see, I'll remember that the Hensley Palace.
Of course, thank you.
Yes.
Of course, I'm not married anymore. You can tell the story. I don't care. You guys were paying for it.
That's right.
And flying around on your jet was not a big deal. God, those are the good old days. Oh, man. Dusty had called me at 4 o'clock and say, hey, man, Greenville's sold out. Let's take the jet down. Took us 8 minutes. It was 90 miles.
It took longer to get from the airport to the arena than it did to fly there.
It worked. 8 minutes down, 8 minutes back. Closer to Plum Crazy and Whispers.
Oh, man.
Jesus. Well, here, Conrad, when he heard you were going to be on the show, he is such a fan of wrestling. I'm serious. He probably knows more about Jim Crockett Promotions than I do, and he's such a fan of yours. He didn't know that you and I talked all the time, and I said, yeah, I got to stay in touch with him. Talk several times a year, but he has put together a bunch of stuff that he'd love to talk to you about, and I'll chime in, and you chime in, and just let us know if there's any level of discomfort, and we can edit that out. Okay.
Okay. All right. We'll do that.
Here we go.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the program today, and of course, all the listeners love when I plug the name of the program, Wooooo Nation, right here on Play.it. But is this the first podcast you've ever done, Mr. Crockett?
It's probably the first podcast that I have been on. I know that I have. As far as with WCW, we sent out some podcasts, and we also did video podcasts back, we did backstage, WCW backstage during commercial breaks, and that was interesting. It was back in the beginning, and so when the camera moved, it would streak like a tube camera. And, it was... But even today, I'm somewhat involved in some of that as far as a business venture I'm working on with a gentleman as far as uplinking cameras back to studios and switching from there, which has been done. He's done it. We can do it with 4K, you name it, up to 12 cameras right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Main reason is the SEC.
Sure.
And the cost of, if you take out a production truck and not use a production truck and a lot of that crew, you're saving $35,000 to $45,000 per event.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Well, David, I know that Keith Mitchell was basically the head of production. He was under you. So what was your title exactly when we were there at Turner together?
My title was Vice President of Television Production.
That's what I thought. Okay, because Keith was under you, and then.
And then towards the end, they moved, and then, I reported to Keith towards the end, and it was so screwed up that nobody knew who was doing what.
Oh, I know. Poor Craig Brothers and Annette. I wonder what happened to that.
She got married.
Who did? They did?
No, Annette.
Annette got married?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Jeez.
and Craig works for, I think, CBS or Outdoor. It might be. He puts together those digital videos for billboards.
Cool.
Yeah, well, he was a smart guy. I mean, it wasn't.
Oh yeah.
We didn't have our problems because we had people that weren't qualified in their position. We just didn't have any direction. It changed every day. God.
Well, so many people had their own agenda.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. And I kept on saying, guys, you're killing the goose that laid the golden egg. From talent to people within the company.
Yeah.
They just wanted to milk it for everything it was worth, and they keep on forgetting there is a tomorrow.
Yeah.
The thing is, when they were in the process of selling it to Vince, I talked to Bill Shaw. Bill left with the Time Warner merger.
Yeah, I remember.
And I had some people that would put up the money, to buy it, but Bill said, David, they're not going to sell it to you. Period. They will not.
Why do you think that was?
Yeah, I've never heard that.
I don't know. And even Vince ended up not paying them what it was supposed to be in buying time. And what it is, AOL just wanted to get rid of us. We, with everything, I go back to killing the goose that laid the golden egg. We got bigger than we should have as far as our egos. We caused too many problems. As far as people would bitch about this, and
well, let's clarify something. We didn't. You and I didn't. Yeah, let's always leave we out.
Yeah. Well, all right, but it was a fact that at one time we had over $18 million worth of talent that was not wrestling.
Wow.
They said they were hurt.
No, David, I know. That's why the Carolinas and a lot of cities are dead. The no-shows. I got the Greensboro one. You probably remember that. Of the 26 guys on the show, 18 didn't show up.
Right. And the thing is, all right, I'll use a Dusty phrase here. And Dusty was perfect at this. Remember who brought you to the dance.
Yep.
And everybody forgot who brought them to the dance. And those were those fans. They disrespected the fans and abused them. They were getting on me about television production and having these bands in between, and they just wanted to use fans as a backdrop, not give them any action. That just talk and show. And you can't do that. They'll get frustrated and say, "I'm not going to spend all my money." Besides the ticket price, you've got to pay parking. You're going to have concessions, and it's not cheap. It's not cheap.
Mr. Crockett, when you say they, in terms of the guys who are running WCW, I somehow suspect you're not talking about Kevin Sullivan and guys like that, and Mike Graham. I think you're talking about Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff and those ilk. Is that correct?
Well, at one point, I want to say that Eric would listen. Eric did well. But then it did this, when Bill left, when Bill Shaw left, that was the parent, you might say the father figure, because Bill held everybody accountable, that every week he would come in and talk this, talk that. He got Hogan to come in, which was a good move at that time. But then nobody wanted to deal with or oversee what was happening. And then the floodgates were open as far as the money was spent, the craziness of, like, I would not know what was happening. It's a secret. We can't tell you. Well, how are we going to prepare for it? Well, that means, like, I was up in Canada and we need an ambulance. What? You need an ambulance. So I had to pay, I think it was $18,000, $20,000 for an ambulance. Buy it.
Wow.
Yeah, you should see my American Express bill.
No, David, we got to do this later on the Diners Club, and well, that's another part of the show. Even Conrad has got more money than God, as Vince would say. We'll be shocked at that number. And I'll just give you a tease, and we'll talk about it later on. David's Diners Club card had $600,000 in debt on it from air travel through the company.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow, it was right.
All airline tickets.
Not woo, but wow.
And that was Jim Crockett. All airline tickets were charged on my Diners Club at that point. I didn't use it. It was just a company card that they used to charge
$600,000
air
With
trans.
WCW or Jim Crockett?
Jim Crockett promotion. Dave Johnson, the accountant, they checked him in over the nut ward over at the fair.
Yeah. Dave Johnson eventually had a nervous breakdown.
Oh, he did. He went crazy.
So let's touch on that. There's kind of this lore that one day, all of a sudden, Mr. Johnson pokes his head in and says, "Hey guys, you're $5 million in the hole." Is that kind of how that went down, or is that just a version?
No. He was sort of throwing the red flags up the whole time, and it was we were grossing a lot of money, okay, but you have to deal with net.
Yeah.
If you have David Allen Co. or the different bands or you name it, and
Waylon Jennings,
if you spend $100,000 and you gross, let's say $100,000, and you still pay talent and everything, well, then you're going to be in the hole. And that's what happened, and then, we bought a region, from Bill Watts and all that. His debts sort of appeared. And boy, I mean, that was the beginning of the end.
Was that Jimmy's decision to buy a watch? Because I didn't understand that at all.
I did not. Well, let me back this up. I felt that there was no reason to buy Bill Watts.
Exactly. We could take him.
You wait, and Jim Ross was part of this one.
Yeah.
That, Jim Ross and Bill Watts and so they were sort of, I'm going to say, working Jimmy. This is my opinion. In that, if you don't buy it, Vince is going to buy it. Well, Vince wasn't going to buy it. He was just going to, let him go belly up and then come in. Take the talent, take the
well, he'd already taken. Vince had already taken all the talent that we didn't take.
And two, we got Sting out of that.
No. I'm saying, but I mean, every time I went out, you guys remember the deal. When you guys made me the champion.
Yeah.
If I went to another territory, and I saw that rock and roll one night, I go, "Guys, why don't you come to Charlotte?"
Well, look at Arn.
I had Anderson, with everybody.
Arn Anderson,
Pensacola, I know.
Yeah, he was
working for Fuller
in Bill Watts area, and you said, and he said, I remember the video.
He was actually working for Fuller then.
Pardon?
He was actually working for Ron Fuller when I brought him in.
Okay, but he had this interview. He was on the beach with the ocean behind him, cutting an interview, and he could do a great interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably it still can.
His exact line was, "I'm ready when Delta is." It was great. I mean, and then I went and got the rock and roll. Then I got cornet. I mean, it's not that I got him. I said, guys, why you're spinning the wheels here? I mean, on paper, David, we had 10 times the crew that Vince had in the 80s. I mean, we just did. And a lot of that, too, is because Vince insisted on making these guys characters. You know what I mean?
Well, but also, too, our style of wrestling was totally different. And to me, it was. We were faster paced.
Yeah.
That we were not stand up or sit down. We weren't Mexican wrestling, but we were good Southern, fast paced wrestling. It's sort of like the Alabama football team, where they take football.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Conrad's from Alabama. Don't start giving this crap up. Jesus.
Roll Tide.
I roll Tide, okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So as far as the business goes in the 80s, we kind of talked about how the styles were different, and you touched on, briefly there in passing that you thought bringing Hogan over when they did to WCW was a good move. The old school wrestling promoter in yourself, when you guys were really going head to head in the mid 80s, and to see 10 years later him come to WCW, was that like mixed emotions for you, or?
Oh yeah, I mean the reason that Bill felt that. Bill Shaw felt that he wanted him was the name value that Hogan, Vince had built Hogan's fame up, to worldwide, and they just felt as far as marketing, and we were primarily a Southern company, let's say, and then Vince was a national company.
Yeah. Well, actually, you remember, David, I called Hogan. He was doing Thunder in Paradise in Orlando, and I took Eric down to meet him, remember?
Yeah.
And the next thing I knew, the guy was making 8 times as much money as I was. And he was wrestling me every night. To hell.
Yeah, and then, Eric and Hogan were joined at the hip.
Yeah. So I know, I saw that. And I went and got Savage, too. I must have been on something I wasn't aware of. I went and got Randy, too. So who knows?
So, Mr. Crockett, with your extensive, promoting background that you had from the old Jim Crockett Promotions days, what was your take when the NWO first came about and you heard that these guys had signed contracts and had favored nations clauses? Is that something that trickled down to you backstage, or were you made aware of that ahead of time? Or, as somebody who had been around, what was your take on that whole deal?
Well, the NWO. It was a good move. They try to keep it secret, but if you're going to keep something a secret, don't tell a wrestler.
Oh, nice.
Well, and two, they had to also work with some of my production people behind my back, and they were going to tell me. I mean, come on, they were loyal to me. So they said, and I said, they just keep me informed. I said, okay, no big deal. Have you thought about this and that? And, now I had one person that she was working with me, and we shot a video in Chicago at a studio. And they had Hogan and Eric, and the NWO had these long leather jackets, and this lady was Jewish, and it was very offensive to her what they were trying to be like the Nazis, that arrogance, and she said, you need to watch this. So, but you look at worldwide, they were huge in Japan.
Well, that's where the idea originated from.
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
That Eric got that idea from All Japan Pro Wrestling, or not All Japan, New Japan. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Well, when we talked about guaranteed contracts, the NWO, or Kevin Nash specifically, is credited as being one of the guys who, pioneered that. But if you go back years past, there's really talk that maybe Lex Luger in that era were some of the first people to have guaranteed contracts. Is that something that originated with Jim Crockett Promotions, and who kind of got that all started, as you guys remember?
That was Turner. That was when we were with Turner. That the guarantee. Well, you get X guarantee, but it's you get more if you do better in the arenas.
No, David, I'll tell you the truth, and I bet if I remind you, what happened is Luger was in Florida, and Luger, having played pro football, had an agent. And when Jimmy called him, you guys gave Luger that first contract. That wasn't
don't
Turner.
say you guys. Don't say you guys.
No. What happened was,
it wasn't me.
And then, of course, when the word got out, then because I have it memorized, the next two guys you gave a contract to, and the third guy were the Road Warriors and Ellering. And then, man, I ran to Jimmy's office and said, "What the hell's going on here, boss?"
Yeah.
And of course, Dusty the Lion started lining up. But that all started with Luger, remember?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And what a mistake that was.
Well, he was smart. I mean, he had an agent, and, nobody had an agent back then except maybe Hogan.
Right.
Or Barry Bloom and maybe Jesse or someone like that. But but he had an agent, and Luger knew how to negotiate a contract. And, I mean, but the deal where he really hit the jackpot is when McMahon didn't want him anymore, and we brought him to Minneapolis to the
Mall of America.
Mall of America for that show, and I think Eric gave him $1.5 million to come with us back on that deal or something like that. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and at that time, once I went to Turner, I was totally cut off from who got what, and mine was just trying to make TV work.
Yeah,
that Mall of America thing, that was a nightmare, but it was also fun to try to make it work.
Oh, it was great. I mean, a lot of the stuff we did was cool, but
Oh yeah,
but,
I mean, we were the first ones to ever, rig screens and lights in the Superdome. Then we also went over to the Houston Astrodome and did it. Then the Georgia Dome. Then the TWA Dome.
Yeah.
I had my main rigger, Donnie Carroll. He was excellent.
Yeah. So because the TWA Dome was awesome. That was we had like 35,000 people there that night. It was tremendous, And then also the Georgia Dome. Wow, that was some great memories.
That was the first time they with that fiber roof that they have, they were scared to death about rigging, lights, and we put a video screen and above the ring. It was something else.
Yeah.
Now they do it all the time.
Yeah, I know. I mean, WWE is way out there now. They're just they do stuff, and they But the one thing about it is Sting was flying down, if you remember, from the rafters before Shawn Michaels started coming in on the wire.
Oh, yeah. One of his first ones was Nashville. Nashville, Tennessee.
Shawn came down in March of '96, and it wasn't until the fall of that year that he started doing the Crow deal. So it would have been early '97 when he started.
Okay, so I'm wrong. Shawn was
not
first.
by long. We're within
No, but I'm
year.
saying is that we were both on track with some stuff that was pretty spectacular.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the other things that, a lot of people maybe don't remember or realize is the plane crash that Rick was in 1975. And, one of the things that everybody always talks about is, who was injured and who all was on the plane. But maybe something younger fans don't realize is there were heels and baby faces on the plane together. Did that represent a worry for the promotion, or was that not even on the list at the time?
Huge worry.
Oh, yeah, it was always a huge worry. But, I wasn't supposed to be on the plane. I was not. Jimmy was supposed to be on the plane. And
Jimmy didn't make a plane because he was out with me the night before, and he was hungover. Let's just say it.
And he told me, I got the flu. I got that.
He had the Flair flu.
A lot of people have had the Flair flu.
Yeah, no, Jimmy we kept Jimmy out. Oh, God, it was brutal. He used to say, I got to go home. I said, I'll call Kathy for you. What the hell?
But yes, it was a problem. But there again, today you look at boxers fly on the same plane.
Sure.
Commercially, that the UWF fighters, they fly and eat same restaurant. So it's
but
the guys know they're not going.
If Woods hadn't walked into Greensboro, I think I remember that they would have had a problem. Because we crashed in a week. It wasn't Greensboro really big the next Saturday, and
yes,
Tim actually worked, I think, right?
Yes.
We crashed on a Sunday, and Woods walked into the Greensboro Coliseum. I think they had like probably 10,000, 15,000 people, whatever it had. I can't remember what the match was, but
don't ask me because my brain was scrambled for quite a few months.
Yeah, David, like it tore his insides out, and then
really
major concussion.
I don't remember much at all about the crash. I know what I've been told. I know what I've read, but every now and then I remember what side of the plane I was on. I remember going over the Cape Fear River and the other engine starting to sputter, and I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I'd been over, because my son was only 2 weeks old, so I was trying to do the Lamaze thing so I wouldn't get knocked out. And, of course, I got knocked out. And then I saw a buzzer, or a light and buzzer go off, and I thought it was that we were too low or something. But my father-in-law, who was a pilot, said that was a stall warning that I probably had seen.
Yeah. Well, that was bad. I don't remember it either. I just remember them loading us in the ambulance. So
you remember more than I do about that. Really?
Well, the guy said, I tried to explain it was the old military ambulances back then where it were three, they stacked you high. It wasn't like the ones you see now on TV. And they just stacked us in there, and the guy hollered, I think we're going to lose this one. And I thought they were talking about me. And I said to the guy, the story is legendary. I said, I got a note in my shaving kit, man, get it. If nothing else happens, I said, I got a note in my shaving kit. And by the way, tell Sheila I love her. But not to come to the hospital.
Oh, man.
I was wondering if you were going to elaborate. Somebody was listening and had no idea what you were talking about.
Thank God. Tell Sheila I love her. Norfolk, I want to kill myself sometimes, Dave.
So that was in 75, right?
That was 75, yeah.
So, Mr. Crockett, when did you first meet Rick? What year was that? How did that happen?
He regrets it to this day.
We were in the office on East Moorhead, if I remember correctly, about 1974, somewhere around there.
April 4th.
Yeah,
really?
1974. That's my first day there.
This guy comes in, blowing up like a bullfrog.
Yeah. Without a dime in my pocket. And my first words were to David, can I have a draw?
Yeah.
And here's what happened. When I left,
and it's continued ever since.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. We'll have to tell the story about splitting me up 3 ways, 10% apiece to get me out of trouble once. They bought Ric Flair for a year. God, nice, David. Thank you.
All right, what happened there? That's a good story.
No,
he wanted to be Ramblin' Rickus Rhodes.
No. What happened was, what happened is Gagne, I asked him for $400 because Megan was just born, right? And he said, hell no, make it on your own. And I didn't have any money. So I asked my dad for $400. My dad said, yeah, good luck with that. And good luck with going to North Carolina. He had no confidence in the wrestling thing. So I walked and I sat with Jimmy and David. I said, guys, I haven't got any money. They gave me $2,000. And I looked at that contract Gagne gave me with 10% for 10 years, and I gave it to Jimmy, and Jimmy tore it up. I said, okay. Works for me. Said, you're working for us now, buddy. And then about 10 years later, I got in trouble, shocker, financially. So David and Jimmy and George Scott split my salary in thirds until I paid them back. They advanced me a little money. We'll keep the numbers on the DL, but
oh man,
it's been interesting.
Yes,
David knows where all the bodies are buried.
Dennis Guthrie helping you out.
Dennis Guthrie, yeah, double-crossed me, working for you, and I'm the one who brought him to you guys. Jesus. Oh man! I said, what's the deal with it? He said, I'm going with the Crockett's. I said, I'm the one that introduced you, damn it. Because you guys had Jack Mraz at the time. There's a name out of the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jack's daughter got killed in that car wreck on Sardis Road. Yeah,
Sardis Road.
Yeah, he was never the same after that, and I was with Dennis.
Same road that Magnum crashed on.
Yes, exactly. That bridge is not there anymore. With that white cement bridge over the creek, remember? Where Jack's daughter died.
Yes.
See, I still have all I don't know how my brain still functions. My memories, everything's there.
Yeah, April 4th.
I know.
Man, blew my mind with that.
You knew the day I walked in the office because I worked with Abe Jacobs that night in the Coliseum. It was a Monday night.
Well, what was the finish? Who went over?
I can't probably Abe. I didn't have a finish then.
I think it's awesome that you know who you wrestled your first night.
Yeah, I wrestled. Well, my first match was George Gadaski in Minneapolis. My first match in Charlotte was Abe Jacobs. My second match was what was his name? Lewinsky? Not Lewinsky. Gosh, David, you'd remember that tall, blonde-haired kid, real nice. I don't know, but I mean, it doesn't matter. But I mean, and Chuck Connors was there, who turned out to be John Studd. Right. I mean, everybody came through there. And then when I went down in the plane crash, in came Jack Mulligan, right? And they brought in Billy Graham, and Billy was working there for a while, and Mulligan moved in and bought a house, and I bought a house next to his, and that was another whole run that drove a whole neighborhood crazy.
Right, then you had the Super Destroyer, and
yep, Bill. I just saw Bill Eadie. I sure did. Yeah, Bill did great. He looks great. He's still married too. I mean, it's a miracle. So God, I can't see these things. I laugh all the time. Every time I got so many stories. I know where everybody's buried in everybody's life.
Well, another old-time wrestler that maybe fans don't remember from the old Crockett territory was Mr. David Finlay.
Oh, Lord.
Who's that?
Well, why don't we let Mr. Crockett explain who Mr. David Finlay is?
Oh, David Finlay. Oh, I know who that is. He was he got beat before I got there.
Go ahead and spill the beans, Mr. Crockett. Did you really plan on being a wrestler, or did you have serious aspirations?
No. It was, as my dad said, no one in the family is a wrestler. I was an amateur, and I wasn't married at the time, and everybody else was. So I was a little crazy, and I said, okay, I'll give it a try so I can, understand the logic behind it, and I bitched about the payoffs too. So I didn't do it that long, but it was a way to learn, and I'm glad I did it. I understood some of that punishment you take, the slams, and or you get thrown out of the ring, or it's not as easy as people think. It wear and tear on the old body. And then wrestlers would take their frustration out on me.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask.
They wouldn't go into Dad. Boy, I'd have help every day getting out of bed.
No, but David, that just it gave you an insight, which a lot of people never get. I mean, I tell people all the time, it's you guys. I mean, because I work for everybody, even though I'm probably the only. I'm sure I'm the only wrestler that never had to leave. I mean, they wanted me to move to Atlanta. They wanted David wouldn't leave Charlotte. I wouldn't leave. I mean, everybody moved around, but I never left like a lot of guys did territories, right? But I went and worked at the territories, and working for the Crockett's was the greatest experience in the world. I mean, everybody was nice, and it's kind of like with Vince now. I mean, you're either a real respectful person or you're not working for him.
Right.
He can be a dick, but nobody else can be. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the Crockett's were so first class. I mean, and we did things, and we'd go to Greensboro, and Jimmy'd say, "Hey, man, let's rent the broom," and if we sold out, we had a party wherever we went, and they paid for it. I mean, it wasn't like you guys come in and the Crockett's footed the bill. We would all go to Sabatino's after we sold out Baltimore, and then when we had the Crockett Cup in Baltimore and that Marriott next door, Jesus Christ, 18 to 28, no boyfriends, no husbands. See you at the Harbor
We made sure that Rick could advertise, his room. When we were doing down at TBS when we were doing the Saturday night show. Of
Market
course,
specs.
He let them know which hotel.
Yeah. That worked for all the wives.
So do you ever attend one of those Marriott parties, Mr. Crockett?
Of course he did.
Oh yes, of course. I mean, you
had no choice.
Yeah.
It was Crockett Promotions, I'm sure. Can I just tell you something? The greatest with me, of course, David was on that jet on 42 days, too. He didn't sit home.
Right.
When we took off from that 42-day gig, it was David and Jimmy both. And we're taking off out of L.A., heading for Frisco, and me and Dave are sitting together back there. And they had a Falcon 10, right? The 10 passenger plane.
Yeah.
And we blew that engine taking off out of L.A. Remember that?
Oh, well, but then all of a sudden,
David
turn around, and they had to clear the runway.
No, we didn't turn around. Remember, Freddie took it up to San Fran. He said, "Man, we're at the altitude now." They went back, and one of the bearings was bouncing around the engine, man. Me and David were out pouring beer down David and me. We were as white as this sheet. Because every time you take out LAX, you always go out over the ocean, right? And I'm looking back at the city. I said, "I'm not going to drown. I'm not doing this." That's the only fear I have about flying is I don't want to do the what was the volleyball thing with Tom Hanks? What was it?
Oh yeah.
Castaway.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. No, not unless I crash with a good-looking chick or something. The volleyball would not keep me alive.
And if she landed out there with you, she wouldn't need a razor.
Yeah. Oh, you remember that though, Dave? Man, we had some rough rides.
Oh yeah, we've had it.
We were coming back from Toronto that night.
Luggage door came open too.
Yeah. Well, how about the night we were coming back from Toronto? From taping up there with Freddie on not the Falcon, but you guys had that big King Air then.
Oh, that G1.
No, the big King Air that you flew before you bought your own planes. It's a rental.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and remember the thing started vibrating. It was picking up ice flying over Lake Erie. Mm-hmm. Oh Christ! I mean, they want to know why we drink. Thank God. We took off in a snowstorm. Remember, we went down. Freddie went down the runway to blow the snow off, and then we came back and took off. Jesus!
And he would do that besides that, when with zero, he'd go in and go over the what is it? What do I call it? The altitude detector.
Oh,
how
yeah.
low the ceiling is.
Yeah.
So he'd blow it around so he could land. So the tower said, it's clear to land now.
Yeah, I know. Another time, I'll tell you what else Freddie was great about. When we ran out of when the bar closed, Freddie would go out to the plane and get more beer for us. Bring it back to the hotel.
Good old
Freddie Floyd.
Thunderstorms, and you don't know which way is up or down. Those were scary.
Yeah.
Those were scary.
Good old Freddie Floyd. And the Oregon Jordan, Pat Jordan.
Mm-hmm. Golly.
Oh, my God.
So what's your favorite travel story? Of course, going back to all the Crockett days and all you guys' plane trips were legendary. What was your favorite traveling story, whether it was by car or it was in the plane with Ric Flair?
Golly.
There's too many. You can't pick one.
There are too. I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, I know Thunderbolt Patterson. I was riding with him and Jerry Briscoe and somebody else going up to Norfolk, and something happened. A log came off a truck, and we went in a median and pulled back on and just kept on going. And so Thunderbolt and Jerry had to pull out something to calm them down.
Yeah, so that wasn't me, but I only knew Thunderbolt a little bit. He was there. He kind of took off for George when I got there. So,
right.
Yeah, but I see Jerry all the time. Jerry's had 4 heart attacks.
Really?
Yeah.
Jerry Briscoe.
I didn't know that.
In the last 3 years, yeah. Or 4 heart incidents, let's put it like that. So, yeah, and then Jack got inducted, got the same year I did, and died, Jack died like 6 months after the induction in 2008. And you knew that, though, right, Dave?
Pardon?
You knew that Jack Briscoe passed, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and now Mulligan's real sick. I mean, geez, just sad.
Yeah, and Harley, you mentioned Harley to me.
Yeah, I talked to Harley on Friday. I mean, well, I told you, first of all, Wahoo's son was killed Wednesday in a boating accident, 17 years old, Karen's youngest. Then, of course, Dusty died at 1:30 on Thursday. And then Harley called me Friday and just got out of the hospital and had very little feeling from his knees down. And he's going to be unable to make the funeral. And this podcast will air the day of Dusty's funeral. Are you going to? I know I sent you the information. Are you going to come down for it, David?
I'm not going to be able to. Believe it or not, I'm teaching.
Okay.
And I can't get out of it.
Well, what I'll do when we get off the air today, I'll forward you Michelle's number. You can just leave her a message.
All right.
Okay, because that was a big part of their life. We had so much fun in the Carolinas. I mean, I know Dusty liked booking Florida, but the better part of his life was working with the Crockett's. And
we had so much fun.
God, we had
so much fun.
We accomplished so damn much. I mean, you just never. I don't think anybody expected it to get that big. And if we had stayed east of the Mississippi, as you and I talk about, we'd probably still be in business. You know what I
Right.
mean?
The only reason that we started expanding was survival, with Vince.
Yeah.
That's why the TBS contract and I enjoyed staying home, you might say, but then, you hit the road. That's one reason now with my grandkids. I can't make up for the lost time with my kids, but I'm definitely doing it with my grandkids.
Yeah, that's a big issue. A lot of people don't understand it because we were gone all the time, and thank God I had a lot of time with Ashley and Reed because I was in a position where I could take weekends off, and then Eric fired me for a year. So,
well, it's because it's not 5 days a week. It's 7 days a week, 24/7. You're thinking about what you're going to do.
Yep.
You think about different things, pairings, and all right, what's next after this? You've got to do a lot of forward planning.
Yep.
To make yourself viable.
Mm-hmm.
I want to touch on Dusty Rhodes, of course. He's kind of at the top of everybody's mind right now, and we can get into as much as you'd like, but there for a long time, you guys enjoyed a lot of success with Dusty at the helm as booker. What did Dusty mean to Crockett Promotions?
Dusty was a bolt of lightning, supercharged. He came in, it was not business as usual. It was fly by the seat of your pants, hold on, because we're just going to go. A lot of videos. If something's not working, forget it. Let's start something else. It was a fun period of time for everyone. It was hard, but it was great. I think Magnum TA said it to me when I was talking to him about Dusty. He said, John Wayne's not supposed to die.
Yeah.
And Dusty Rhodes is John Wayne. He wasn't supposed to die. You never thought of Dusty dying. I didn't.
Yeah.
He thought he was going to be around forever.
Yeah, he was.
It's funny you say that. Jim Ross just said a couple of days ago that John Wayne died on the same day as Dusty Rhodes.
I know, yeah.
The day was the same.
Well, and as big a fan of John Wayne as Jim Ross is, so was Dusty.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and he created such a level of excitement. He was so damn creative. I mean, the Starrcade, the Flair for the Gold. I mean, the Great American Bash on. All those names are still. Nobody uses the name Starrcade anymore or Flair for the Gold. But I mean, it's
the Greensboro Thanksgiving. We'd sell it out, and at intermission, tickets go on sale for the next one a year away, and that almost sell out. They don't even know what's going to be there. They just knew it was going to be good.
I know, and the thing of it too is, I don't think anybody understands that we literally from Charlotte to Charleston, West Virginia, as far as Huntington, right? Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus.
Those Saturday shows at TBS.
Yeah, all that. And in the
what a riot.
Well, and the reason that the West Coast, in my estimation, didn't click the first time around is the saturation of Turner of TBS wasn't that big then. I mean, you don't know what I'm saying? It was stronger on the East Coast,
correct.
right, David?
Right. Yeah.
Because if we'd had the penetration or saturation, whatever the word is, the TBS has now, we'd still be in business.
Right.
But we kept going out there trying to, stay in the run with those guys, and those guys were on network TV back then, before USA, and they were on NBC with Ebersol and every string in the world going, and we just couldn't. Turner didn't have that penetration. We sold out everything out there the first time it went.
Well, the Meadowlands, look what we did at the Meadowlands.
Yeah.
And that was strictly off of Turner.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Yep. Yeah, I know. No, we did great, but the West Coast was just rough. I mean, we did great the first time. Portland, Seattle, we killed it. L.A., we had 17,000 at the old Forum in L.A. We sold out the Cow Palace. We never went to the Oakland Coliseum, but sold out Las Vegas, sold out Albuquerque. I mean, all those, and parked the jet and went over to the Tropicana and woo Nation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Don't think that David Crockett wasn't part of that trip.
Oh yeah.
I was busy with my television.
I know. Okay.
Mr. Crockett, I'm glad you said that about television. I'm curious, how did you put together the old television show for TBS? Is that something where Dusty would kind of bring you a rough outline and you would go over it with him?
Well, we knew how many minutes of commercial time we had to put in. We knew how long. We had 60 minutes or 90 minutes shows, and we could break it up. Remember, with 6:05 we'd come on, and then we would pause, have a pregnant pause, and then start another sequence. And it was Dusty and Gene Anderson back there, making sure that the times were right and adjusting times as we went. People were supposed to have 30-second interviews, but some people would be 2 minutes. I wonder who that'd be. And then
well, I know you're talking about. I know you're talking about Dusty.
Yeah, you get the four horsemen out there, and you just sort of stand back and be a human microphone stand and just watch them.
Yeah.
And the chemistry.
Yeah.
That these guys had. Lord.
Well, Dusty could talk pretty good too. Let's not leave him off. And so could Ole.
It was that they didn't have a script. Nobody had a script. And that's what was always amazing to me, that these interviews that are classic, with Rick and Dusty and all of them were off the cuff. You sort of knew, okay, who I'm wrestling. You sort of knew the date, but everything else was ad lib. And the same thing with your matches. That we sort of knew, what was going to be the ending, but, the beginning, middle, were up to the wrestlers. And golly, what a wonderful experience it was working with them.
Yeah, it was. I mean, everybody, we were just like, we'd come in there and we were at not odds with each other, but we all wanted to outdo each other.
Right.
I mean, and interview day could be brutal because after interviews, if you were in Columbia, you were happy as shit. If you were in Raleigh, man, it was a 3-hour ride.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, and they did them on, and thank God they did them on Tuesday because Wednesday we had TV at WRAL. And good Lord, the Hilton Hotel was waiting for us on Tuesday night. The Hilton was waiting for me even if I was in Columbia. Burning up US 1, brother. That's another part. You guys should have just bought the Hilton. They kicked me out for a year. I had to go down to the red carpet.
Oh, man.
You know that.
Oh, yeah, and that's where all the politicians stayed, too.
Good old Joyce, the Greek chick that ran the hotel.
Yeah, Joyce Mandikos.
Yeah. Yeah, Rick, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to stay at the Red Velvet Inn for about a year. You're throwing that TV off the 8th floor, going through the windshield of one of our clients' cars didn't work. So I did that. Well, it's missing in your room. Oh, God. Jesus.
You're listening to Woo Nation right here on Play.it. Our guest is the unbelievable Mr. David Crockett, his very first podcast. As we start to go ahead and try to wind this episode up, Mr. Crockett, I want to ask, did you ever attend any of the old NWA board meetings? This is kind of a wrestling legend where it was almost as if the wrestling business was ran like the old school mafia. Did you attend any of those meetings, and what were those like?
I attended the meetings, yes. And nothing really happened at the meetings. It was always the other meetings in other people's rooms. That's where all the planning, let's say, and yeah, it was like the mafia. You had territories, and Vince Senior was there. Which I never really could grasp that. Because, he wasn't NWA, but he was part of it, all the meetings and all the backroom meetings. But, and Jimmy was the spokesman there. You can only have one spokesman. So, but I would go and watch and give my opinion.
Well, the truth of it is, I'll speak it for you because you're being way too kind, is that Jimmy and David didn't wrestle, right? Okay, and here they're...
Jimmy and Jackie. You mean Jimmy and Jackie?
Jimmy and Jackie didn't wrestle.
Yeah.
But David, you weren't like a full-time wrestler either, right? Okay.
No.
So here's the territories. Fritz Von Erich, right? Full-time. The Funks, right?
Yep.
Bob Geigel, Harley Race, right? Eddie Graham in Florida.
Right.
How Barnett got in power, I have no idea. but Vince, because of his relationship with Eddie Graham, and everybody respected Vince Sr. so much. He was such a great guy. But Carlos Colon had a vote. Ron Fuller had a vote. They were all wrestling people.
Right.
So when all of a sudden this monster out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Crockett Promotions, started rising, they were just all jealous.
Sure.
Because everybody was without Vince taking it, everybody wanted to go work for the Crockett's.
Right.
Because this monster, took off, and it wasn't like Jackie or Jimmy and Dave were going by his back. The guys were calling them up. Hey, we want to come to work for you. Magnum came from Watts. We had a Junkyard Dog after his run with Vince, but Ted DiBiase wanted to come, but he went to Vince instead. But Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, all those guys came from Watts.
Right.
And the guys out of Florida, everybody wanted to come. And of course, the greatest trade of all time, as David will remember, is I came back and I saw Steamboat, Richard Blood at that time in Atlanta. And I said, Jimmy, you got to get this guy, man. And he goes, Barnett goes, oh, well, I like One Man Gang, and so that was it. The One Man Gang went to Atlanta, and Ricky Steamboat, another phenomenal part of the equation, right?
Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper from Don Owen. You know, Don was another guy who didn't wrestle, but you know what? Everybody liked Don Stabile. He paid 10%. He did. He actually, I could go out there and work in a $30,000 house. I would get $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd go work on a $30,000 house in Florida and get $500. And if I worked on a $30,000 house, which I never had, in Kansas City, I would probably get $350.
Right.
3%. So the Crockett's paid too, man. You made money. I mean, me and Steamboat that one week, 1978. Rick and I tell the story all the time. And Rick was, he and I have had, we could have done better in the marriage circuit, right? But that one week when George Scott was booking, we took that angle around, and you guys paid us $8,800, David, in 1978 for Christmas week. And Steamboat called me up and said, "I'm quitting. I'm tired of working every day." I said, "What'd you say to me?" He said, "I'm calling George Scott and I'm quitting." Oh boy, I drove over to his house 100 miles an hour. Forget that, buddy. Can you imagine? We make $8,000 in 1978, wow. Me and Steamboat, right? We weren't even 30 years old.
It's like $30,000 now.
Yeah, I know. It's major. I mean, that's what kind of money we were making. I mean, I made less money my first year. When I got the world title in 1981, I had just made $250,000 in 1980 working for the Crockett's, right?
Wow.
In 1981, as the world champion, I made $180,000.
How does that work? Because
I wasn't working for the Crockett's full time.
He was traveling.
And the other territories weren't paying. I was spending the same amount of money, but the checks weren't the same. I told Jimmy, bring me home, please. God. Cool. I mean, and what happened was that they all got mad at the Crockett's, so they wanted me to fail. Not Harley and that, but I mean Eddie Graham and that, they didn't want me to be successful.
Because you weren't their guy.
I wasn't their guy, and Jimmy wasn't their guy either, and David wasn't their guy. You know, it's kind of like it's almost like they resented the fact that the father had turned the business over to Jimmy and David. That's my kind of take on it, because they loved your dad, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, but he'd been around for so many years, you know what I mean? And
nobody wants to talk to Junior.
Nobody wants to talk. Yeah, and that's kind of, but that's the same way it is in every business. I mean,
well,
sure.
You know, and with that, John Ringley, who's my ex-brother-in-law, he went to all the meetings before Jimmy or I.
With your dad,
right? And so, you know, we really didn't go until Dad passed away.
Yeah.
You know,
and that happened 4 months before I got there.
Wow.
I never met their father. Is that he died in the early 74, right? Or 73?
73, I think.
Yeah.
So
talk to me about, you know, when we're talking about the old territory days and everybody had a vote at these board meetings. Of course, everybody's kind of campaigning for one of their guys. Why did you guys pick Rick out of your territory to be the guy to vote for the champion?
No, to pick me to be the champion.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. In terms of, you know, everybody wanted to push their guy. What was it about Ric Flair that made the Crockett family think this should be our guy over, say, a Dusty or somebody else?
Well, Dusty was Florida. Dusty was, you know, Dusty was Florida's guy, or Jack Briscoe. You know, at one point was the Florida's guy. Rick was ours. Rick had that charisma. He had the athletic ability too. You know that he could, as he would say, he could walk the walk and talk the talk.
Well, the other thing too that helped a lot is Jimmy and David. And ultimately, you know, Barnett was always looking for allies because they could bully Barnett.
Sure.
But they couldn't bully Barnett when Barnett and Jimmy and David were together. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So Jimmy and David would speak up for Barnett, and that too. So then Barnett got on our side, right? And then you know, and Jimmy just put the pressure on him. He said, you know, even though they hated it, the main guys that were trying to block it were guys like Pat O'Connor. Said he's not big enough, you know. You know, I mean, there was 1,000 different reasons But they pushed. I mean, the Crockett's wouldn't get off it. And Carlos Colon liked me, too. And then Carlos and the Crockett's, the Colones became very close, you know. That's my pretty much memory of it. The Fritz thing, you guys... Fritz was pissed off at you guys because we took Keith Mitchell from him. So another guy said, "Come on, brother, you're wasting your time. You're in Dallas. Crockett Promotions ready for you."
That's cool.
True story. Yeah, Keith Mitchell. I recruited all these guys, man.
You should have got a finder's fee from
No,
that.
but they asked me. You know, the only guys that I never could get to come there that came later on were the Freebirds. You know, Freebirds. They were making so much money with the Von Erichs back then that
right.
Was, you know, why would they leave?
They were there. They was in and out, right?
No, they were there for about 4 solid years with the Von Erichs.
No, I mean in terms of Mid-Atlantic. Did the Freebirds come out?
Oh, they came in and out, yeah, eventually.
Yeah,
TBS
they came in and out.
But they never really stable. They never moved to Charlotte.
No,
right.
No, it was not a...
Yeah, Sting,
let's say a weekly... They weren't here to do weekly shows. It was mainly to do Coliseums.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about the influence of George Scott. George Scott is probably a name that a lot of fans may not remember, but he was really critical in booking some of the early successful cards that you guys had. What did he mean to Crockett Promotions and just you guys' business at the time?
Oh, he was another great booker in that, you know, we thought, at first, I remember he brought John Valentine in. And John... One of his things right at first was to get someone in an arm lock and sit and sit and sit and sit. And people would get frustrated. Hell, I got frustrated. You know, a television camera just sort of looking at somebody, you know, on the mat, but then his psychology started coming around and... You know, it would be people would start yelling and screaming as the guy would start to try to get up, and then Valentine would take him down. And George was a very good, he was patient with a lot of these people, with a lot of the wrestlers. He brought in, you know, some good name talent. You know, you've got, you know, J.J. Dillon came in and wrestled, you know, for George Scott as a wrestler. Then you had Bill Eadie. He was there with George.
Talk to us a little bit about Starrcade. You know, the story with WrestleMania is that if that had failed, Vince would have went under. But the precursor for the so-called granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania, before there was a WrestleMania, there was a Starrcade. What was your gamble at the time financially, or did that feel like just another show, or did you know then it was going to be something special?
It was the Starrcade was our Thanksgiving event in Greensboro. That was it was. We just took the show in Greensboro and said, all right, this is the largest building around, and just it's Thanksgiving. Let's just make it truly really special and keep working at it. And it was, that it was great.
So when we're talking about the big shows, the other one that kind of gets thrown into the mix a lot or mentioned a lot was Great American Bash, and that was kind of a revolutionary concept. You kind of mentioned earlier with the big bands that were booked for those shows. Were you in the room when that was first pitched as kind of a music and wrestling deal, and were you a fan of it, or did you kind of not understand the financial aspect until after the fact, or where were you with that at the time? I
really didn't think it was going to work that well. That's just me. Production-wise, it was extremely hard because I had to do production for all that. And I'd rather not have the bands. That if you need a band, have a band concert. This was wrestling. I just didn't want to share the money, let's say.
Sure.
Pay for some band, that really didn't want to be there anyway. They just wanted the money, and it was cost so much more to set up for them.
Yeah.
You know, I like the concept of the Great American Bash, but I didn't like the bands.
Yeah, and it's funny because actually, the band they played afterwards, didn't they, David, all the time, or not in the middle?
No, you're right, but there again, it's an expense that you didn't need.
No. What I'm saying though is when they played at the end of the event, the people were leaving anyway. They didn't care.
Right? Yeah. I mean, they came to watch a wrestling match. They didn't come to watch it. You know, David Allen Coe. Nothing against David Allen Coe, but you know.
And the one guy I thought that was really cool, Waylon Jennings, was great because he was such a big name, credible star. But David Allen Coe, I didn't dig that. I didn't get that either.
Right.
Nice guy. And then George Jones no-showed us in Cincinnati, and remember that?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, good old George, right? No, it was cool. I mean, you know, like in Charleston, we went back one night, and David, you were there at that that Marriott, and David Allen Coe played all night afterward. And there's some great memories of it, but God, it was a lot of money that didn't. It's like right now. I'll give you an FYI. The last 2 years, Vince hasn't had anybody of any name recognition in entertainment. I mean, we've gone from having Aretha Franklin when I was there, Kid Rock, who sang the Pledge of Allegiance when I was there. I mean, Kim Kardashian was at my retirement, WrestleMania. What's the guy, the singer, John Legend? I remember all that. He's cut all that out of their deal because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You know
Nobody's watching for that.
Yeah, and they're not going to pay a Kid Rock $250,000 to come sing at WrestleMania anymore. I mean, they've cut back on all that stuff.
It's wrestling.
Yeah, it is, and the guy, you know, I think he realizes that the guys would rather have the money. Not that that's an issue for him anyway, but you know, for me, that was a big part of it. I loved having Kid Rock and stuff like that. I loved watching that, but. I can see why that's you know, out of the budget now, and it doesn't affect the product or affect the attendance. So it's
right. You know, it wouldn't have 1% effect, you know, as far as a gain in the attendance. You know,
no, you're right.
If they were going to come see Kid Rock, why not come see him in a concert? They'd see him longer.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, I think we're ready to go ahead and wrap this one up.
Well, I'm sure David's ready for a martini after this. I'll meet you at Del Frisco's at 5.
All right, yeah.
Before I let you go, Mr. Crockett, you know, it is timely. It is something that we probably need to discuss. You know, going back to Dusty one last time, I know a couple of years ago there was a documentary about the demise of Jim Crockett Promotions, and off air you and I had a chance to speak before we started taping today, and you told me that you guys had kind of patched things up last year at Fan Fest.
We did. And there again, it wasn't Dusty, it was me. It was me. I was venting, and Dusty was the person I vented at, and it shouldn't have been. You know, that Dusty was doing what Dusty was supposed to do, and I apologize to him for that. That, you know, I should have tried harder to change things, but I didn't. You know, you can get frustrated, and I just, you know, wanted somebody else to blame.
Sure.
Except myself, I guess. But you know, it was great, to see him, and I am so happy that we did have that time. You know, and it was, and also, Rick, you remember when you called me about this podcast, you gave me Dusty, told me that Dusty was, sick. I tried to call him that morning. He passed away.
Yeah. No, I know it was, I had, I called you about the podcast, this before, because I had just left him, but I was talking to you, and he wasn't in the hospital at that point, but he had lost 80 pounds, like 40 pounds, probably 40 pounds since WrestleMania.
Wow.
Yeah, or at least 30. I mean, he just looked like a walking ghost, but he could talk, and his humor was there, and he was mad I was getting to go see LeBron James. And not mad, but we were our usual
joking.
Usual Laker Celtic stuff. Yeah, and that's when I called you and I said, yeah, by the way, Dusty's not doing too well. I didn't mean he was dying, but I meant he just didn't look good. I mean, when you know somebody so long, you know when something's not right. So
right.
Anyway,
you
David,
can look in their eyes and tell.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, David.
Oh, you're welcome, Rick.
Appreciate it. Stay in touch, my friend. Okay, and as I will with you.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll forward you Michelle's number. Okay.
Please do.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, David.
Right. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All the ladies love Slick Rick. You know they love Wooooo Nation. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
This is Conrad Thompson with Wooooo Nation right here on Play.it. Baseball's in full swing, and you can be a part of all the action all season long at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball.
There is only one Ric Flair, 16-time world champion, but don't get down. Don't despair. You can win cash every single day at DraftKings.
No season-long commitments, win huge prizes every day. Peter from Colorado won $1 million in just one day. Are you kidding me? Hey, Pete, when you come to Atlanta, drinks are on you, pal.
Woo! New contests start daily, so hurry to DraftKings.com right now and use promo code FLAIR to play for free in today's $10,000 fantasy baseball contest. DraftKings.com, official partner of Major League Baseball. Enter Flair for free entry now at DraftKings.com. 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 Woo!
The greatest talker in the history of the business is behind the mic once again. This is Wooooo Nation with Ric Flair.
Wow, I gotta say that's one I never thought we'd get to do. You are way more connected than I imagined. I mean, that was awesome.
No, it was. I mean, it's real because it's there's a history that we just we could talk for 2 more hours. He knows.
Yeah, I mean, we could do 4 more episodes with him.
He's like Gene Okerlund. I mean, it's a volume. You know, we didn't talk much about Jack Mulligan. We didn't talk much about the Andersons. I mean, there's so much. Yeah, but it all came together. I mean, that's the true story. I walked in their office. I didn't have a dime. They gave me $2,000, and Jimmy Crockett, I feel bad saying it, took that contract from Vern and said, you're working for me now.
Right. And that's something a lot of fans don't realize, but whenever you graduated Vern's camp, you had to obligate yourself to giving him part of his commission or part of your salary for years to come, right?
I did, yeah.
You said 10% for 10 years?
It was 10% for at least 5 years, but I think it was for 10.
So talk about, now that we're kind of putting a bow on this episode, what did the Crockett family mean to Ric Flair, the wrestler?
They meant everything. I got sideways with Jimmy, obviously, when they sold the company, and I was told by Blair Schmidtfelder, who David knows this, I didn't bring it up with David, but that they couldn't have sold the company without me, and I didn't have a contract,
Right.
Instead of saying that, because Vince was calling me, and I wanted to stay with Jimmy and David, and was very happy there, and I had turned down that opportunity several times, and then all of a sudden I'm, sitting down there with having to put up with Jim Hurd and all this crap, and I was just upset. I said, why, Jimmy, why wouldn't you tell me what's up after all this?
Right.
After all we've been through, and that's, that was it. But it's funny, I haven't talked to Jimmy, and I haven't talked to Jimmy since 1989.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
No, I talked to Francis and Jackie, but I haven't talked to him and David, all the time. But not Francis and Jackie all the time, but periodically, like once a year to David and Jackie and Francis. But I talk to David all the time, and I have never talked to Jimmy since he came in, and they gave him a position, and they fired him within a week with his salary, but they just candy coated it, and he was gone.
Well,
David and Jackie, they kept forever till they closed the doors. And Jackie's doing very well. He bought a lot of real estate with his money and saved it. David saved his money, and David, because you can tell, is always got business ventures going on, and they're great guys, a great family.
And one of my favorite promos you ever did was the Golden Spoon one, of course, when you're on the side of the stage and you're taking off your cashmere sweater and all that, and he's in the background. David is just grinning ear to ear. He had to be enjoying it. He knew he was a
great guy. He was a great guy. Yeah, we had so much fun. Yeah, and I don't have a bad memory of the Crockett's. It's just what happened is business is what it is, and we got. That thing started to grow, and the company grew, and we were pulling off our end. But as a wrestler, I was close to Dave Johnson. They checked him in, man, right into the nut house. And David, think about this: what would you do if you were sitting around and you knew that things were upside down, and you had a $600,000 bill on your Diners Club card?
Yeah. And 600,000 now is nuts. 600,000 25 years ago is another level.
It's insanity. That was on David's credit card. He didn't even use it.
Right.
That's what they were charging David's credit card. The other guys are probably maxed out too, but David didn't even know about it.
Sure.
They just applied for one and put in his name, and poor David, she looked at me and said, "Can you believe this shit?"
Yeah.
I said, "No, I can't." And I just want you to know I haven't used it. Oh, I know. It was a tough time, boy. They were scrambling. So.
Well, this one's going to be a tough to beat, Rick. I appreciate you having me in. It was an honor just to talk to a Crockett, man.
Oh, thanks, Conrad. We're having so much fun with this stuff. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening in. We'll be back next week. It's going to be a top secret, though. So turn it on. Woo! Nature Boy, Conrad Thompson, Ric Flair with Woo Nation. Over and out. Woo, 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 woo. Love the American dream, baby. Woo!